Let's take another look at the most important part of your robot, the EV3 brick itself. We've already talked about the ports on the top and the bottom of the EV3 brick, where you'll be plugging in your sensors, motors, and USB cable. And you've learned how to turn the robot on and off. Now it's time to talk in much more detail about the buttons on the front of the brick. The EV3 has 6 buttons on it. Some of these buttons actually do multiple things, but it helps to begin by just talking about the general type of thing that each button does. In a minute, we'll talk about each of the buttons in much more detail. Let's start with the top left corner button. This button is similar to the back button on a web browser. It takes you back a level to where you were before. We use it to quit, and you can think of that as going back up to the top level. The dark square button in the center is more analogous to the Enter key on your computer keyboard. You press it when you want to do something. The buttons surrounding the center square are similar to the arrow keys on your keyboard. They allow you to move up, down, left, and right between things on your screen. Just as a reminder, to turn your EV3 on, press the center square button. Before you updated the firmware, it's possible, though unlikely, that you may not have heard the tones when you turned on your EV3. But when you do a firmware update, it resets your system, so you should now hear the tones when it's ready. Remember, the EV3 will eventually turn itself off automatically if you leave it on for long enough, unless you modified its settings to specifically tell it to never auto shut off. But most of the time, you'll want to turn it off yourself. To turn off the EV3 immediately after turning it on, first press the corner button once. The shutdown screen should appear, at which point you should press the right button to select the check mark. When you see that the check mark is selected, you press the center square button to confirm shutdown. Remember, if you've done anything other than power the EV3 on, you may have to press the corner button a couple of times before you see the shutdown screen. If you keep pressing the corner button, eventually you'll see the shutdown screen, and then you can continue to steps 2 and 3 in order to turn off the EV3 brick.